And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today we are talking about day number 15 of training camp. We're also going to be taking a look at the key standouts from the Burgundy and Gold scrimmage that took place today, along with what Coach Dan Quinn had to say. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, just like Jaden Daniels is going to be hitting Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Zach Ertz, and many others for multiple touchdowns this upcoming season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Washington Commanders. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it. And let's start with what Coach Dan Quinn had to say before practice. And so I'll just be paraphrasing this, but the first thing that Coach Dan Quinn talks about is just really, the concept with this Burgundy and Gold game and really what he was trying to do as far as development. So he said that, with this, you're trying to find a balance. He also said that it's about leveling people up. And so really talking about the development of the coaching staff, because remember, they split everybody up and they're giving everybody, different types of roles and responsibilities here. So you get a chance to really kind of grow a little bit there. And then he talks about that as coaches, he really feels like that, getting better as a coach is naturally going to trickle down to the players. And so, that is something that Coach Dan Quinn definitely wanted to achieve with the Burgundy and Gold inter-squad scrimmage game that they had here today. And so next, just some notes on that. Cliff Kingsbury, he was the head coach of one side. You had Joe Wood Jr., who was the head coach on the other side. He does talk about Joe Wood Jr. a little bit more and talks about like three things that kind of stand out with his coaching. And he says that one, the expectations, the details and standards. And so those are kind of some key aspects into what Coach Joe Wood Jr. brings to the table as a coach here. And so he also talks about this. And so he talks that 9 players were out today. And so there were 9 players that did not practice. I know that Jonathan Jones was definitely one of those players, along with Price, another cornerback that we have here on the team. And so both of those players, I think, were notable in the 9 that sat out here. And then the next thing he talks about is Deebo Samuel. And so he's asked about Deebo Samuel and just talking about how great a shape he's in, number one. And then 2, he talks about how he's learned the system very quickly and how the extra time with Jaden Daniels seems to be really helping, him right now. And so, I think that this is great insight. We continue to see in multiple practices that Jaden Daniels and Deebo Samuel seem to be on a high level right now. They're clicking. And this is good because I do think that it goes up even more in a season situation when you add Terry McLaurin out there. And so hopefully, they can get things squared away. They can get Terry McLaurin out there and hopefully they can start ramping him up before the season. But, I think that definitely once you get both of those receivers out there with Jaden Daniels, I think that it's going to take the offense to a new level. But good to see that Deebo Samuel, is put in the work and he is just off to a great start. So the next thing that he talks about is Jaden Daniels. And so he's asked about just kind of what he's doing here in year 2, to take that leap. And so he's saying that with Jaden Daniels, he's just really making others better at this performance right now. And just talking about the way that he is leading out there. And so talking about pass protections and checks and stuff like that. And so it just sounds like that Jaden Daniels, this is something that we heard before with him, just the comfort level, right? And just knowing that, hey, he knows where he's at right now in this space and just being comfortable as a leader and kind of stepping in and letting guys know, hey, that wasn't the right route or whatever the case may be. Like it sounds like that is where Jaden Daniels is. And so we know he's super talented, but the fact that he has become even more assertive as a leader, certainly going to help this team here. And obviously his performance counts for everything. And so this is a guy that is not only just talking it, but he's also doing it too as well. And so good insight here with Jaden Daniels. Then the next thing with Dan Quinn, he talks about this with the rookies. And so he says that the rookies, really, he's been impressed with them and just talking about how it's been a mature group. He's talking about that their lead up time in the camp, it's been very good that way. And then also, too, he's just saying that these guys have just really they've had a chance to kind of lock in with this group a little bit more. I think he said that it's been like a smaller group, but they've been super focused, it sounds like. But I love the fact that he says a mature group, because I've said that too, with Trey Amos, that this is a guy that he seems like he's just not a rookie. He seems like he's been in the league for 2, 3, 4 seasons. And so does Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Jalen Lane, you name it. Like, all the rookies sound like that they've been in the NFL for quite some time. And so this is why I think that we definitely have a solid rookie class here that is set to certainly get some playing time in year one. And so next thing here that he talks about is, just some of the things here with Jalen Lane, and talking about how he's been impressed with him. He's asked about the wide receivers and saying that, look, they're still, moving some people around and things like that. And so I think that this is a time where, there has been, I think, a lot of questions as to what is going to happen with the wide receiving core, beside Deebo Samuel, and the obvious here with Terry McLaurin. What is that going to look like? And so I think that now, with guys being out, Terry McLaurin, Noah Brown, like, you get a chance to really see what you have and just really what they can and cannot do at this point in time. And so, I think it's an exciting time, for this football team, definitely trying to find out what your skill set is at the wide receiving room. But I think that this is something that is going to help this team ultimately when they get to the season. And so next, let's go ahead and start to jump into really the standouts from this Burgundy and Gold inter-squad scrimmage here. And so if you guys want to take a look at some of this stuff, you can go over to Commander's Wire, where I saw this. And so there's clips and stuff in there. You can see that, the tweets and stuff that came out with it. And so a lot of good stuff in there. And so let's go ahead and start with the first thing. And that is that Chris Rodriguez Jr. looks like that he had a pretty good day. And so I did see a clip where he did get a touchdown. And with Chris Rodriguez Jr., I think he's coming to camp. He's into some great shape at this point in time. And I think he is definitely one of the reasons why the running back room is going to be super competitive here. And so let's see if Chris Rodriguez Jr. can carve out a role here. And so I do like what I'm seeing initially with him. And so he did score on a touchdown on one of the clips here that was in that article. The next thing that was mentioned within this is Trey Amos here. And so with Trey Amos, he definitely made some plays today. And so it looks like that there was one play where I guess Jalen Lane had maybe broken away with the speed or whatnot, and he was able to track him down, forced the incompletion there. He also got another incompletion. I guess it was on a blitz from Bobby Wagner. That's what it's saying there. And so making plays. And so, look, Trey Amos continues to just, his skill sets are translating right in front of our eyes. And so I just cannot wait to see what it's going to look like here against the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm hoping that they do, run their wide receivers out there, and we get a chance to see him lock up with some of these guys. And I just can't wait to see what he's going to look like in week one, because I definitely think he is trending towards, I think he's won the starting position at this point, but still, you still have training camp to go, but I think he's right there for sure. And so the next thing too, that was a standout was Mikey Sainristil. And so it looks like that Mikey Sainristil, I think he made some good contact. And so from what I'm seeing here with Mikey Sainristil, he had some good coverage, first of all, on KJ Osborne. But number two, I guess there was a play where Luke McCaffrey caught the football over the middle of the field. And keep in mind, with this inter-squad scrimmage, they're not actually, tackling each other to the ground and things like that, but they are making contact. I mean, with the shoulder pads and things like that. And so I guess he gave Luke McCaffrey a pretty good shoulder check here. And so I guess, that was good to see that, both players, number one, were okay. But just number two, the fact that you see that Mikey Sainristil is out there flying around the ball. And so this is something that we've definitely heard with him throughout camp. But much like Jaden Daniels, when you talk about Jaden Daniels on the offense, you have to talk about Mikey Sainristil on the defense. And Dan Quinn talked about both of these guys really being able to self-correct last season. He did say that, where both of these guys didn't have to wait till the offseason. And I think that you're seeing that with both players. And he has said that both players have stepped up as leaders. But I love the type of intensity that we saw from Mikey Sainristil today, or at least what we're reading about from this practice. And so next thing, it looks like that our newcomer was out there doing some things. And so it looks like that Duke Rowley looked pretty good in a run fit, and he was pretty loud and physical. And so that's one of the things that it talks about. And so, with the linebacker position, I do think that this team is still looking to find, something to go with Luvu and then also to Bobby Wagner. I think that that is going to be really an interesting piece to our defense this year. And I think that Joe Wood Jr. wants to run some like big time versatility out there and be able to just give offenses different looks. And so let's see, what Duke Riley can do. We've talked about Kane Madrano, who I think takes another step forward because Jordan McGee was not out there today. And so I think that the days that Jordan McGee misses, Kane Madrano continues to show flashes. And so let's see if, one of these guys can emerge as a linebacker that Joe Wood Jr. trusts and wants to put out there into some situations this upcoming season. And so that is a note here with Duke Riley Jr. Next thing, talking about Von Miller. And so it looks like that Von Miller, from what I read here in that Commander's Wire article, it looks like that he put on a good move on a third down on Josh Connolly Jr. And so, look, I love this for two reasons, because number one, with Von Miller, that he is definitely going to be a Hall of Famer. And I think that with Von Miller, from what I'm seeing in the practices, as far as the clips and just reading about this stuff, it looks like that Von Miller is going to be that guy for us in these pass rushing situations. I think it's all about just keeping him healthy, keeping him fresh, obviously, and getting him to those big moments. But the second half of this is I love that Josh Connolly Jr. gets a chance to go against Von Miller. In fact, when I see this, if he gets beat, I love this, because I think that this just makes Josh Connolly Jr. that much better. And remember, I talked about this in the last preseason game, that Josh Connolly Jr. is a gamer. So I'd love to see this, because when he gets out to the games, I guarantee you he's not letting that stuff happen. And so I love it. This goes into the iron sharpens iron concept. And so that, I think, is another key takeaway from today's inter-squad scrimmage. And so also, too, lastly, I forgot to mention this, is that I think that it did get, I guess, a little chippy from what I'm reading as well. And so they were talking about Noah Anagami, and maybe, I guess, guys kind of getting a little chatty out there. And so I did see that maybe the competition level rose a little bit here. And so that was another note that came out of today's Burgundy and Gold inter-squad scrimmage. And the winner did get a t-shirt, by the way. And so with that being said, guys, you guys let me know what you're thinking here as far as the key takeaways from today's inter-squad scrimmage. What were you most impressed with, and who did you want to see step up maybe that you didn't hear about? I'd love to hear your insights there. And also, too, let me know what you guys are thinking about what Dan Quinn had to say before, because I love the fact that, with this type of situation, you really kind of break up what was, the monotony, I guess, in the practice and stuff like that. And you do something different, and you get a chance to really develop the staff and stuff like that, because, you never know what that next job is going to look like in the National Football League. And I think that not just in the National Football League, but like when you're looking at any type of job situation, you just got to get out there and you got to get some experience. And so I love the fact that, with Coach Dan Quinn, he gives his staff that type of opportunity to really grow and perhaps expand their career at some point. So you guys let me know in the comments what you're thinking. And as we always say, go Commanders, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.